There's a place in Massachusetts where strange doesn't just happen, it concentrates. Ghosts, creatures, UFOs, curses, not one mystery, all of them, layered and tangled in the same square of land. There's no porter sign, no flashing lights, but once you cross into the triangle, the stories change, and reality starts to bend. I'm your host, Robert Barber. Today, we step into one of the most paranormally active zones in the country, the Bridgewater Triangle. This is State of the Unknown. Drive just 40 minutes south of Boston, and the world begins to change. The highway gives way to winding back roads. The trees get taller, closer. The sunlight feels dimmer, like it's passing through more than just clouds. You'll pass through small towns like Abington, Easton, and Raynham. Nothing out of place, nothing unusual, but something hums beneath it all. A quiet tension, like the land is holding its breath. No sign marks the boundary, no map outlines the edges, but once you're in, you'll feel it. Welcome to the Bridgewater Triangle, a roughly 200 square mile zone in southeastern Massachusetts where the strange is not the exception, it's the rule. First coined in the 1970s by cryptozoologist Loren Coleman, the name refers to a sprawling region that stretches from Abington in the north to Freetown in the south and Rehoboth in the west. But the lines are loose, the activity, anything but. Inside this invisible triangle, the reports are relentless. Glowing orbs floating silently above bogs, shadow figures pacing in abandoned hospitals, thunderbirds, puckwudgies, Bigfoot, and that's just the beginning. Even UFOs that hover, then vanish like they were never there. It touches towns like Bridgewater, Taunton, Dighton, and Brockton, each one hiding its own legends. This isn't a haunted house. This is an entire haunted landscape. And the deeper you go, the more the stories start to connect. To understand why this land might be haunted, we need to go back to one of the bloodiest conflicts in North American history, King Philip's War. Fought between English settlers and Native American tribes, it began in 1675 and resulted in widespread massacres, village burnings, and a complete breakdown of peace in the region. At the center of this war was Chief Anawan, a leader of the Wampanoag people. In August of 1676, Captain Benjamin Church and his group of colonial soldiers captured Anawan, with him surrendering at a large boulder in what is now Rehoboth. The capture of Anawan marked the final event in King Philip's War. Although Church promised to spare Anawan's life upon his capture, he was ultimately executed by colonial officials. That boulder is now called Anawan Rock, and ever since, strange things have been reported there. Things like ghostly fires that appear at night, drumming that echoes from the surrounding trees, and chanting in a language that most people don't recognize, but scholars do say it is Wampanoag. Visitors say the air feels different here. Heavier, like something has never moved on. Some believe it's not just haunted. They believe the land was cursed that day, and that the spirits of the betrayed still linger, watching the modern world forget what happened there. Venture deeper into the Triangle's forests, and you may stumble into one of its oldest and most unnerving legends, the puckwudgie. These aren't just cryptids. They're part of the Wampanoag oral tradition, dating back long before Europeans ever arrived in North America. The word puckwudgie roughly translates to little wild man of the woods that vanishes, but the Wampanoag didn't use the name lightly. These beings were believed to be small humanoid tricksters, standing 2 to 4 feet tall, with gray or pale skin, large ears, and glowing eyes that shift from red to green to white depending on the tale. They could appear and vanish at will, shapeshift, and control natural elements like fire or fog. And while some indigenous stories suggest that they were once benign or neutral, over time, their relationship with humans, especially the Wampanoag, turned dark. According to legend, the Wampanoag were once protected by a giant spirit named Moshup. He defended them from dangers, natural and supernatural alike. The Pukwudgies, jealous of this bond, turned against both Moshup and the people. They began playing dangerous tricks, leading hunters astray, setting fires, and whispering threats from the shadows. Eventually, they were said to have killed Moshup's sons. After that, the forest was no longer safe. They became creatures of chaos, malevolent, unpredictable, and deeply territorial. Today, sightings still come from inside the Freetown Fall River State Forest, especially near swampy trails or old stone walls. Witnesses describe blurry figures darting behind trees, eyes glowing at knee level just off the trail, disembodied voices, sometimes whispering in the witness's own voice, feelings of being followed or watched wrong, like something is studying you. One woman walking her dog near the forest heard her own voice calling from the woods. Another hiker reported, "I saw eyes, low to the ground. I thought it was a fox. Then it stood up. It looked at me. Then it was gone." Cameras and compasses often malfunction in the area. Batteries drain. GPS goes haywire. Some locals refuse to speak their name after sunset. They say, if they want to find you, they already have. At the center of many triangle legends lies the Freetown Fall River State Forest, a sprawling, wooded area covering over 5,000 acres. By day, it's hiking trails and tall pines. By night, it's something else entirely. In the 1970s and 80s, a string of ritualistic crimes rocked the region. Animal sacrifices, strange symbols, fires burning at midnight. Some of the crimes were linked to local cults. One suspect confessed that the Freetown Forest was chosen for its energy because things come through here. Police officers have described finding pentagrams carved into trees, animal remains arranged in ritual circles, and makeshift altars deep in the woods. Even hikers have reported sudden disorientation, feeling like the forest is moving, and hearing voices or catching whispers just out of range. Some say you don't just visit Freetown Forest, you're invited in, and once inside, it decides when you leave. The Bridgewater Triangle isn't just haunted by spirits. It's stalked by creatures, some massive, some ancient, some still completely unexplained. And towering above them all is the Thunderbird. In the mythologies of numerous Native American tribes, especially the Algonquin, Lakota, and Ojibwe, Thunderbirds are revered and feared in equal measure. They're giant supernatural birds said to live above the clouds where they command the forces of nature. Their wings beat like thunder and lightning flashes from their eyes. To some tribes, Thunderbirds were guardians, keeping balance and protecting people from malevolent beings. To others, they were punishers, sent to deliver storms as warnings or retribution. Some common threads in the legends include wingspans of 12 to 20 feet, silent, gliding flight, the power to summon storms, and appearances before major life events or disasters. Some depictions even show them carrying off whales or buffalo. In the modern world, they haven't disappeared. In 1971, 2 police officers in Easton, Massachusetts claimed to see a bird the size of a small airplane perched on a telephone pole. When it flew off, it did so without flapping, a silent glide that spanned the road in shadow. Another local woman reported a bird that swooped down on her car, its wings stretched wider than the vehicle. She said it disappeared above the treetops in total silence. Other Triangle residents described giant silhouettes crossing the moon, blackbirds with wings the size of garage doors, creatures too big to be real floating silently over highways. Some cryptozoologists believe that these might be the descendants of prehistoric birds like the teratorn or argentavus, species thought to be extinct for thousands of years. Skeptics say they're likely just misidentified herons or eagles, but the consistency of the size estimates, behavior, and emotional response from witnesses is hard to ignore. No one forgets seeing a thunderbird, and no one mistakes it for anything else. Deep in the heart of the triangle lies the Hockomock Swamp, a place whose very name means place where spirits dwell in Wampanoag. It's not just a name, it's a warning. The Wampanoag believe certain areas, especially wetlands, swamps, and battle sites, were spiritually charged or even dangerous due to the lingering presence of ancestors, elemental spirits, or supernatural beings. The Hockomock Swamp was not feared in a cartoonish way, but deeply respected as a sacred, liminal space where the spirit world was close. So when locals call it the place where spirits dwell, it's not just poetic. It's literally what the people who lived here before colonization believed it to be. For decades, residents and investigators have reported sightings of ape-like creatures moving through the swamp, tall, hairy, and impossible to follow. They describe it as 7 to 8 feet tall, covered in dark brown or black fur, sometimes with red or amber eyes, and walking upright but unnaturally fast. One hunter claimed he had found an 18-inch set of footprints near a deer carcass, but when he returned with a camera crew, they were gone. No tracks, no signs, just silence. These creatures have been nicknamed the Hockomock Swamp Monster or the Bridgewater Bigfoot, and have been featured in documentaries, books, and countless local campfire stories. Some believe they're undiscovered primates. Others think they're guardians of sacred land, appearing when something threatens the balance. And some believe they aren't creatures at all. They're apparitions with mass, things that exist just long enough to be seen before dissolving back into the swamp. While the forests and swamps of the Bridgewater Triangle are crawling with cryptids and ancient spirits, the skies above are no less active. This region has been a hotspot for unidentified flying object sightings since at least the mid-20th century. These aren't isolated incidents, they form a consistent pattern, often occurring in clusters and investigated by some of the most well-known names in paranormal research. Let's take a look at the timeline of some of the most compelling reports. 1968, Raynham. A local couple driving near the forest reported seeing a large red orb hovering silently over the trees. It appeared to move intelligently, shifting position, then shooting straight up at an unnatural speed. Lauren Coleman included this sighting in his foundational book, Mysterious America. The couple reportedly contacted local authorities. Names were not made public, but the sighting was documented at the time and referenced in early Bridgewater Triangle research. 1976, West Bridgewater. Multiple independent witnesses reported a triangular formation of lights hovering above an open field near a rural highway. The craft made no sounds and eventually accelerated away in a perfect right angle, leaving witnesses stunned. One account came from a local truck driver who pulled over to watch the lights for nearly 5 minutes. Raymond Fowler, a respected New England UFO researcher, cataloged this event as part of his larger studies of Massachusetts sightings. Witness names were withheld by Fowler for privacy, but the consistency in the testimonies drew attention from the local UFO community. 1994, Route 24. A man driving alone at night saw a massive black triangular craft hovering above the highway. It emitted no sound, and his radio and dashboard lights flickered as it passed overhead. Christopher Balzano documented this case in his book, Ghosts of the Bridgewater Triangle. The witness remains anonymous, but the incident is believed to be part of a cluster of sightings that same week. Similar power interference and emotional disturbances were reported by others in the area during that time. Across decades of reports, the following patterns recur: triangular or circular shapes, movements that defy known physics, like hovering, sharp angle turns, and instant acceleration. Absolute silence, even at low altitudes. Electronic interference like radios, GPS, and even car engines briefly failing. And reports often coincide with cryptid sightings or strange animal behavior. Importantly, these sightings often involve multiple witnesses, sometimes strangers in separate locations describing the same phenomena with striking detail. Despite the volume of reports, no public statements or explanations have come from local police, the FAA, or nearby military bases like Otis Air National Guard Base or Hanscom Air Force Base. This silence only fuels theories. Some suggest the triangle is a testing ground for classified aircraft. It's an energy vortex or window area that draws in off-world technology. Or these aren't craft at all, but interdimensional manifestations, as described by John Keel, author of the Mothman Prophecies. Investigator Christopher Balzano adds a chilling possibility. He says, what if UFOs, ghosts, and cryptids are all part of the same force, different faces of the same thing, leaking through a tear in reality? Tucked just outside the town of Freetown, within the Bridgewater Triangle, stood one of Massachusetts' most mysterious natural landmarks, Profile Rock. At first glance, it was just a cliff face, about 50 feet high, part of a granite outcrop in a quiet section of woods. But to those who lived here, especially the Wampanoag people, it was something much more. It was sacred ground. The rock formation was long believed to resemble the face of Chief Massasoit, the great Wampanoag leader who welcomed and aided the Pilgrims during the earliest days of European colonization. From certain angles, the silhouette was unmistakable, a stoic profile carved not by man, but by time and nature. But to the Wampanoag and many locals, this wasn't just a rock that looked like someone. It was a living monument, a natural totem of ancestral power and protection. Generations of Wampanoag held ceremonies near the rock. Elders passed down stories of the land's spiritual resonance, of dreams and visions experienced here, and of unexplainable phenomena tied to its presence. Over the decades, hikers, campers, and local visitors began to report strange encounters near Profile Rock. Encounters like glowing blue or white orbs drifting just above the tree line. Apparitions of a native man standing motionless at the cliff's edge. A distinct feeling of being watched, but not threatened. Photographs taken at the rock that revealed strange distortions, light streaks, or figures unseen by the naked eye. One visitor claimed she heard a low drum beat as she approached the rock, soft at first, then building in tempo. When she turned around, no one was there. Others report feeling a wave of emotion, sorrow, reverence, or awe, suddenly and without explanation. Some believe Profile Rock functioned like a spiritual battery, a point where ancestral energy lingered and pooled, still active after centuries. In June 2019, Profile Rock partially collapsed. A section of the face, the very feature that inspired the rock's name and legacy, crumbled without warning, falling away from the cliff and into the woods below. Geologists cited erosion, natural wear, and possible water damage. But for many in the local and native communities, it felt like something more symbolic. Some said it was a fall of a guardian, a spiritual protector of the triangle finally broken. Others saw it as a warning, a shift in the spiritual balance of the region as old energies were disturbed or fading. And some believe the collapse wasn't natural at all, that something in the triangle changed, something powerful enough to crack stone. On the northern edge of the Bridgewater Triangle, looming like a forgotten memory, sits the crumbling remains of Taunton State Hospital. Originally opened in 1854, Taunton was one of Massachusetts' oldest psychiatric institutions, part of the Kirkbride Plan, a 19th century architectural philosophy that believed grand, airy hospital buildings could heal the mind. But the history of Taunton is far from therapeutic. Taunton began as a beacon of moral treatment, a progressive idea for its time. Patients were encouraged to spend time in natural light, tend gardens, and find calm through beauty and order. But as with many asylums of the 19th and early 20th centuries, what began as compassion turned into neglect, and worse. Overcrowding, understaffing, invasive procedures, electroshock, lobotomies, cold water immersion therapies. By the mid-1900s, the hospital had taken on a reputation not just for tragedy, but for something darker. After the hospital officially closed in 1975, paranormal investigators and urban explorers began sneaking in, and what they found, or claimed to, only deepened the triangle's lore. Accounts include shadowy figures seen crawling along the ceilings of abandoned wards, apparitions of former patients pacing in the hallways, reports of eyes peering from mirrors only to vanish when approached, voices echoing in locked rooms, especially in the notorious lower wings. The atmosphere was described again and again as oppressive, not just scary, but heavy. Some visitors felt violently sick upon entering. Others say they were watched from the moment they crossed the threshold. One psychic who visited the grounds said, "It's not just haunted, it's layered. Like every trauma that ever happened here is still playing out, all at once." What makes Taunton stand out among haunted asylums isn't just the ghost stories, it's the whispers of something more deliberate. According to multiple independent accounts, some from former employees, the basement was used for ritual activity in the early 20th century. One former nurse claims she saw staff members going downstairs in robes after hours. Others mention pentagrams etched onto the stone floor, candles left burning, and blood stains in areas that weren't part of any medical procedure. Though no formal investigation was ever launched, local legends claim that a small cult operated within the hospital staff, using the energies of the mentally ill as fuel for occult practices. Is it just folklore? Maybe. But to this day, the basement of Taunton State Hospital is sealed off, and those who have broken in say the air changes the moment you cross that threshold. Some call it a relic, some call it a ruin, but those who've been inside know better. Taunton is still awake. After everything we've seen, pukwudgies in the forest, ghosts in the hospital, lights in the sky, and beasts in the swamp, the question remains, what exactly is happening here? Is it coincidence? Is it folklore? Or is the Bridgewater Triangle something far stranger? Let's start with the man who named it. Cryptozoologist Loren Coleman coined the term Bridgewater Triangle in the 1970s after years of collecting reports from the region. In his book Mysterious America, Coleman proposes that the area acts as a window area, a zone where the boundaries between dimensions are thin, unstable, or even torn. In these places, the strange isn't just more likely to occur, it's invited. Coleman's work suggests the triangle is a place where realities overlap, where creatures, lights, and phenomena from other realms may slip through, momentarily visible before vanishing again. British researcher Paul Devereaux and American author John Keel of the Mothman Prophecies take a more Earth-based approach. They suggest that some areas are naturally anomalous due to geomagnetic energy, unusual mineral compositions, underground water systems, or crystalline deposits that create fluctuations in Earth's magnetic field. These hotspots can affect human perception, induce hallucinations, or even power supernatural phenomena. In southeastern Massachusetts, it sits on mineral-rich soil, running water, and quartz deposits, perfect conditions for what Devereaux calls earthlights and psychic disturbances. Some believe these forces don't just amplify paranormal events, they feed them. Then there's the idea that the triangle is haunted not just by spirits, but by memory. Folklorist and paranormal author Christopher Balzano believes that the violence and betrayal that occurred here, especially during King Philip's War, left behind more than just a historical scar. It left behind residual energy. Places like Anawan Rock in Freetown Forest aren't just haunted. They're replaying the emotional aftermath of war, injustice, and spiritual desecration. Balzano writes, "The Bridgewater Triangle is like a bruise that never healed. Press on it, and something pushes back." Finally, we come to the most unsettling theory of them all. What if the Bridgewater Triangle didn't start this way? What if it was made this way? Over the decades, rumors of ritual activity, occult practices, and even human sacrifices have surfaced. If any of that is true, what was being called into the triangle? Was it protection? Power? Chaos? Some believe the region may have become a spiritual beacon, or worse, a doorway. A place where rituals, pain, and attention have opened something, and now it can't be closed. Maybe the triangle doesn't just attract the strange, maybe it summons it. So, what is the Bridgewater Triangle? A rift in the fabric of reality? A wound that keeps bleeding through history? A mirror that reflects our fears back at us? No one can say for sure. But when the fog rolls in too fast, when your GPS spins in circles, when the forest goes dead silent and you feel something just out of sight, you might not be lost. You might be in the state of the unknown. Until next time, keep your headlights on and your mind open.